Authorities have had to evacuate a 5-kilometre radius of ammunition depot in Crimea after it was under a drone attack.
I think Russia can sustain these attacks indefinitely. It's not as if it's particularly expensive to Russia. And
6 a.m., a Russian brigade believed it had the upper hand. Mortars leveled a Ukrainian ammo depot, and flames lit up the night sky. Russian observers claimed a victory, sure they had shattered Ukraine's supply chain. But within hours, the battlefield flipped. A single overlooked mistake, one open hatch inside a fortified hangar, allowed an unexpected weapon to slip inside. What happened next turned a secure position into a death trap.
What more do we know about these Ukrainian potential drone strikes?
Yeah, good afternoon, Kamali. It's the second attack in 2 weeks.
And left an entire brigade wiped from the field. So what was the error, and how did Ukraine exploit it so decisively? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. The Russians thought the critical blow had already been struck. A mortar attack lit up the horizon and erupted inside what they believed was a key Ukrainian ammunition storage site. From their perspective, the explosion was proof the Ukrainian supply chain had been ripped apart. They saw fireballs, smoke columns, and assumed troops would be scrambling without resupply. In their playbook, a destroyed depot meant collapsing logistics, and collapsing logistics meant paralyzed defenses. But inside those assumptions lay the real mistake. Because the Ukrainian network was not built around static stockpiles anymore. And the true vulnerability was not inside Ukraine's logistics at all, but rather hidden in the folds of Russia's own deployment.
I think Russia can sustain these attacks indefinitely. It's not as if it's particularly expensive to Russia. And
the Russian strategy followed a pattern rooted in an older way of fighting. Strike supply hubs, hit transportation nodes, and wait for attrition to starve your opponent. Mortars raining down on a warehouse looked effective, sounding like echoes of past wars. What they missed was how quickly modern supply systems can fragment and spread without relying on a single depot. Shelves of ammunition were already divided into smaller caches scattered across tree lines, half-ruined structures, and improvised dugouts. So even as the warehouse burned, Ukrainian rifle squads 10 kilometers away still loaded boxes of rounds into their fighting positions. Trucks diverted to secondary roads. Rifle grenades, mortar shells, and belts for heavy machine guns were rolled forward anyway. The supply chain dented but did not break. That sharp contrast between what Russia thought they were destroying and what Ukraine kept using lays open the mindset gap. For Russian planners, victory still meant hammering visible targets until they stopped moving. The belief was that a depot is the beating heart, and if you smash it, the body dies. But across the line, Ukrainian units were operating under a more flexible model. Every command post had backup links. Every platoon leader carried devices tied into wide communication networks. An order could reroute supplies as quickly as civilian deliveries shift on mobile apps. This was war managed in real time, where nothing stayed fixed long enough for static firepower to decide the outcome. As Russian batteries cooled down after their first barrage, Ukrainian units quietly reorganized. Under tree cover, soldiers linked radios, reassigned supply duties, and even used smoke screens to mask their movements. Teams emerged from dugouts to reload weapons. Within minutes, small quadcopters lifted over hedgerows, feeder drones feeding live imagery into command tablets.
Authorities have had to evacuate a 5-kilometre radius of ammunition depot in Crimea after it was under a drone attack.
To Russian forward observers, the quiet fields looked broken. Yet below that calm surface, small adjustments were erasing the damage they thought they had inflicted. Then came the second error. Inside a hangar, Russian forces parked a prized armored vehicle, engine still hot, heat shimmering into the cool air. Troops had gathered outside, confident the position was shielded by thick walls and layers of earth. But the vehicle sat with a top hatch open, a detail overlooked in the rush to rotate cruise and rearm. That single gap transformed steel protection into an invitation.
Its victory in Ukraine is inevitable. This extraordinary operation shows that Ukraine is still in this fight.
On the Ukrainian side, operators prepared a different kind of drone. Unlike the typical quadcopters many imagine, this machine carried its commands not through radio, but along a thin fiber optic cable spooled behind it.
It's a message for Russians that Ukraine can cause severe damage to Russia, deep inside Russia.
The connection made it silent to jamming attempts, invisible to electromagnetic scanners, and agile in environments where walls or tunnels would block normal signals. It crept forward like a snake, sliding into openings only centimeters wide. The cable unrolled silently over dirt as the drone hugged the terrain, invisible at human eye level. Slowly, this weapon reached the hangar. Russian soldiers outside chatted, believing the concrete shell insulated them from threats. The drone paused only once before rising just high enough to cross the threshold.
Drones help a lot in creating kill zones, increasing the range to the enemy. The further a drone can go, the greater the chance for our infantry surviving.
Then dropped low again to stay out of sight. Past stacks of fuel barrels, past toolboxes scattered on the ground, until it faced the waiting armored vehicle. The open hatch loomed above like a gateway. With a steady hand on the controller, the operator guided the nose upward. No alarms, no shouts. The small craft disappeared inside. The strike came from within, not from above. The explosion burst out of the vehicle so violently, the hangar walls shuddered. Flames poured through its roof vents, fuel igniting, ammunition cooking off.
Temporarily occupied by Russia, 12 people required medical attention while 4 were taken to hospital after the explosion.
Panic replaced certainty outside as men who thought they were sheltered realized no wall had protected them from what was already inside the shell. In seconds, the armored vehicle went from a symbol of security to a killing furnace. The brigade's illusion of safety crumbled. If a simple open hatch could erase protection and turn engineering against its own crew,
Strike Russia where it's not expecting it. It's also a clear indication that Russia is not invincible.
then what does that say about the very idea of secure positions in modern war? Fortified walls, bunkers, and armored vehicles once defined safety, but the battlefield now punishes small slips. An open hatch, a loose pattern, or a poorly timed pause can erase entire units. Firepower no longer guarantees survival when precision drones exploit human error with silent precision.
Ukrainian forces hitting back harder against the Russian-backed troops in the south. Is this the counteroffensive that Kiev's been telling civilians that it's preparing for?
This shift marks a new era. Tanks and columns of artillery still matter, but they no longer decide victory on their own. Technology does. So consider this question. If one brigade can vanish before sunrise because of drones, what happens when every army fields them at scale?